Okay, gentlemen, in this video we're going to stay on something that I'd like to call PaintJucation. Going to grab this phrase from Kevin Tetz, right? Our buddy Kevin Tetz over there building hot rods and everything. Cool guy, and I like to say that some of my best ideas come from other people, right? So I think that's a cool thing. Now this, I'm going to be doing a lawnmower in this episode, but these techniques are true for any older machine that you would like to paint and make it, you know, nice, pretty decent, a lot nicer. Now, in PaintJucation is going to be a number of videos in a series. And why? Well, a number of people have asked me different questions. Hey Arch, what did you use here? How did you paint that? And I do go over this kind of stuff in a lot of my videos on sort of refurbishing and refitting machines and mowers. And I show different elements about how to like touch up and paint. And the problem with that though is although it's fine, there's no one place that I have in my repertoire where you guys can go to and kind of thumb through and just look at, you know, how to refinish and how to deal with rust. What do I do for rust? How deep do I go? What does it look like if you only go so far? What does it look like when you go all the way? Oh! Holy cow, I think he's gonna make it. Stop right there! Careful, Arch! Right? See, my mind is wandering now, right? Anyway, I thought it'd be nice to sort of make a PaintJucation series, right? Again, thanks, Kevin. Right? Shout out to Kevin Tetz. I watched him. I love his mustache. Right? I'm wandering again. So I figured in this video we're going to just stay on this particular thing. It's an older Craftsman, and it's a cool machine. I was going to throw it out, and by rights, it would have met the criteria for me as to what I would throw out in part. Because the parts are valuable. But I said, you know what, I got the bag for it. It's a nice older machine, very heavy steel. And I wanted to do something. I am going to be doing the Toro series, building up a Toro personal pace from the beginning. Took 4 lawnmowers to get enough parts together for one. So that's part of what's going to be in the PaintJucation series. Check out one of my other videos. And I don't know what's going to come out first, but I think I have a video in the works of going over all the various paints and things that I like to use. Paints, thinners, glues, bondos, creams, and de-rusting agents. So in this video we're going to talk about, and I'm going to show you what I did on this machine specifically to get the finish back up, abate the rust, and deal with an older bodied machine. This is true, guys, for anything that you want to paint, that you want to restore. And I think it's a good opportunity as I unfold the series to look at, you know, maybe you want to start, do a tractor, right? I just did a nice tractor and cleaned it up recently, and a beautiful black tractor, and it just came out really nice, and I didn't have to do a lot to it to make it sort of that extra bit of purdy, right? We're not talking about putting lipstick on a pig, although I do that from time to time, so that'll be something in here. Let's get started on this machine, and let's see how it turns out. I'll see you guys in a bit. I'm just going to start off with a basic wire wheel. Now this looks pretty bad, but other than this one little crack which I see here, we could fix that, or we could just put a little hole right there to stop the crack from getting worse, but I don't think it will. It's probably, that's not a common place. We could weld it too. The biggest problem I have with a machine like this is that I don't have this color. So we're going to be experimenting with some different colors. The reason why I like black or the red varieties is that when you go to sort of recondition them, you're not having to get into bracket areas and all this. And I have ways of hiding it and not making it look mottled. So I've already developed those techniques. I really don't want to develop a technique like that for gray because, well, there's not that many gray machines left anymore. They're not coloring them that way. And honestly, red sells. It just does. I've been doing this long enough to tell you. So let me just start off with, we're going to hit it with a wire wheel, a couple of different wire wheels. I'm going to start off with this one first, and then I'll do something a little bit smaller around the edges and whatnot. All right, to make life a little bit easier, okay, so we might as well take this apart because we're going to relubricate in here, clean everything up. So I might as well get this off now. Now this is actually in the sun because it's early in the morning, but I'm going to be waiting probably, or I may have to move it. We're going to put chemical on this in a little bit, but with the sun here, the chemical will dry too quick. This is all aesthetic, right? We just want to make this look a little prettier. Now just smooth it out a little bit more. Okay, I decided to take everything apart. It's just going to be so much easier to prime and paint and work it and move it around, and it can kick around for the rest of the week while I do other things. All I got to do now is wire wheel a few spots. I'm working with the 4-inch, 4.5 inch with, I think it's a 60 grit that's on there, but it's a beat one, so it's actually really good for this here. All right, I got my super clean. Right, we have the regular and the foamy. Actually, I'm going to start needing some more foamy again. I like both of them. I use more of this than the foamy, but the foamy is still foamy. Let's rinse it first. And this is just its first bath, right? I wanted to get the bulk of the debris off. And the second bath will be a quickie. Let me get a little brush for that. I'm just going to start off with a hole, and it looks like right about here. We'll put a small, like 1/8 bit. Yeah, and that'll relieve stress. Yeah, that's fine. Now, yeah, that looks good. I'm going to come down and then over. Yep, perfect. Now we just got to go on that tangent. All right, that's it. We'll let it cool, grind it. I'll be back in a minute. Like it never happened. Make it chin close. Then we're going to go quick rinse, and then we'll do the acid. I'm just going to give it one more cleaning with super clean, just a quickie, just to make sure that there's no oil residue. I got to get more of this stuff. DTM by Kirker. Now Eastwood has it too. This is the DTM Prep Acid Etch Wash 6860. I gotta get more of it. Lasts me a long time. It's expensive now. Well, everything is expensive. All right, we're gonna come back in a few minutes, and then we'll flip it because I don't want to disrupt it. Now, what you can do, taking a clean brush and just work it. It's puddling, which is good. You'll see it'll leave a white zinc compound that'll protect it from flash rust. This is what they put on, what we put on before you paint using primer. But most primers nowadays, they are DTM. DTM meaning direct to metal, meaning you can put the paint right on top. I think we're golden there. Like I said, just going to leave it until it just about dries. And then we'll come back, we'll flip it, we'll put product on the top, same routine, give it a chance to set up. I'm gonna go clean up in the shop a little bit, put stuff away while this is doing its thing. Now you can see what it did, right? In every area that was cleaned properly, it left this white deposit, which is zinc, and that's gonna protect against flash rust. You can paint over it. Normally I wipe it off. We are going to rinse. I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to get the other side coated and work that side, and we'll be back when that's done. Okay, while I was washing off the engine and I was doing a few other things, I kind of hit it with the hose a little bit. Just a light mist. You can use a spritz bottle, and what that does is it reactivates the product a little bit, right? Just to get you a little bit more time to act. Right, so we're going to put a little bit more of this on. And now I'm going to take my Scotch-Brite and I'm just going to scuff everything. Not only will this scuff the rust and help the acid to work, but it'll scuff the body. This is like a polyester. Probably at this point in time when this was made, it's very similar to a powder coat. The polyester resin heated may not have been electrostatically applied, but the acid itself is going to etch the polyester to some degree, just by nature of what it is. All right, I think I've been waiting long enough, right? I didn't let it dry fully, but that's okay. We don't need to. We're going to rinse it. I'm going to let it dry out here for a little while, and we'll bring it in a bit while I'm still cleaning up stuff. And now we can start to see, right, how well it's been treated. There's almost no rust left on this thing. Like I said, you could take it further and really get rid of all of it. But I didn't have to work that hard. If I wanted to, yeah, I could take it all off, but it's not necessary. It's sealed. It's sealed, it's converted. And this thing looked good gray. All right, I'm gonna blow it off and then we'll bring it in a bit. Okay, so this is what it looks like. And again, we rinsed it, but you see it's actually quite powdery. And you're going to get some of this material. You can see it's on your hands. So we're going to remove it, but I don't need to remove it from here. We're going to spray. We're going to just kind of wipe it, right? It's not a matter of removing it. It's more a matter of just, believe me, we paint over this stuff all the time. When you go to a body guy, he's painting over a lot worse. But what we're going to do is kind of treat it with a little bit of solvent. Now, mineral spirits works really well. So I'm just going to lay some solvent on this. And then the bottom, I'm going to use my clean blue towel first. Everything will stick well. And after we do this, there's a lot of things you can use, but lacquer thinner is definitely too strong. You don't want to eat into the paint. I just want to pull off some of this extra material that's on here. Okay? Sometimes it's a judgment call. You could probably leave that and get away with it. Now, if I was just painting a machine, I'll show you in a minute. I want to take you over to a machine I just did, where I kind of, again, I'm painting in place without removing too much. That's a different technique that I use, and that's generally what I do. Once or twice a year, I'll do Toros, I'll do a couple of Craftsmans like this. All right, we'll be back in a minute. See the dirt it picks up. All right, so no, not optimal, right? But it is what it is. We're going to cut it close. A little Scotch-Brite tool, and I'm just going to work it. And hopefully we can just kind of remove some of the blemishes that I see. All right, so I started working out here a little bit. So we just blew a coat on the inside. I'll show you what I'm using. It's all dry. It's a hardened type of primer. And so everything's been coated. And we have a good scratch coat. I made it kind of thick. Let me show you what I'm using. All right, we're all set up in here too. I got my nice pink tablecloth. Dinner is served. Having a nice little picnic. So this is an old DeVille bisque gun. And I bought a special tip for it many years ago. So it's capable of blowing primer or finished product. Now, it's kind of the best of both worlds, but it is siphon feed. I'm not running a lot of pressure. It works very well. We're going to leave everything in this can, and we're going to work out of this container without kind of you know, having to clean it out and everything. So we're going to abuse it. This is what I like to do with it. I'm going to abuse it. I have nicer spray guns, but not for this. And we're going to use a little bit of Kirker Perfect Prime. It's a 2K primer surfacer, and it's in gray, but I've been adding a little bit of black to it. That doesn't seem to be helping any. I'm not too worried about that. And also I have some old Rust-Oleum hammered or hammer tone black, and it's starting to go, right? We're about down to there. I'll show you in a little bit. She's got this weird, you'll see it, you'll see it. The key thing is to keep it tight, as tight as you can. So if you have to approach it from different angles, what I do is I use my green stick. Use a razor blade too, but you know, you don't have to do this. You could have just removed the labels, but it kind of looks better with the label on there. If the label is covering over rust, that's no good. All right, that'll work. Oh, is that money calling? Let's find out. I just wiped everything down. They made a nice pass. So I'm using 180, and on this is like 4-inch pipe insulation, so it's got the curves, so you can put paper on either side. It's just an older one. But we'll do 180. So you can see I'm cutting through in a few areas, right? After this, it's still a little wet, like it's soft, and it doesn't sand as well. Soft. Remember, this is high build primer, and I laid it on pretty thick. But I just wanted to see. So I think we're pretty good in most spots. There's still more sanding that can be done, but what might be nice is to put on some of this. Okay, the Bondo glazing and spot putty. Mastila para conoceres. Yeah, I ruined that. I messed that up. So I think we'll put that on. Mikey's going to be here in a bit, so I'm just going to sand a little bit more. I don't want to get my hands dirty. You got to keep your hands clean or wear fresh gloves. This works pretty good. You can, you know, because of the curves, you can follow natural, you know, the natural shapes. There's still more sanding that we can get out of it because that's how thick I made it. But it needed, oh, I found a crack back here because once I painted it, I found the crack there. So before we finish up prime and all that, we need to dig the welder back out and fix that. But you could see so many of the areas that are problematic or almost are fixed just by me sanding. And you could use a DA on it, right? If you really want to lay into it, a small, I want to get a small DA for stuff like this. I wanted one anyway for cars and for other things because there's a lot of little areas you can need a big DA, but there's a lot of little areas that you can have a DA and just make things go really fast. But look, most of this is gone just by, and the harder it gets, the better it will sand. But when you start cutting through in a few areas, you know, it's feathering nice. So a lot of these things here will stay in the 180 because when we get to that Bondo, and this is a spot putty, so it's not really Bondo. It doesn't need a hardener, although I like the one with the hardener. I couldn't find it. But we're only going to use it in these areas here where there's a lot of blemishes to cheat, you know. I mean, you could lay on more of this primer. Any good high build primer, you can get it in a spray bomb too. Yeah, any good high build primer will help you here. It's looking really good. All right, I'll be back in a bit. Sorry, I got the fans on. Well, one, because it's hot, and two, you know, to blow stuff around. It feels really good. Just going to put a little bit of this stuff on, just in a few spots. And hopefully I'll get it on before Mikey gets here. Because this stuff takes a little while to dry. I think he's already here. And it's just thick. It's basically just thick paint. There's nothing fancy about this stuff. And don't worry about it if you make a bit of a mess. You're going to be sanding it, so. And nothing's got to be perfect, because it wasn't perfect from the factory. It's just they use a very thick paint, and of course it's new. So it looks shiny. And yep, that's Mike. I hear something. Yawn! Where are you? All right, wherever you want. Let's go get Mike. All right, end of the day report. I'm tired. I'm going in. So I butted everything up, and you can see these are all the areas. I mean, I had so much primer on, which is great because it's a good primer, and it's, you know, comparable the spray can stuff, and I'll show you towards the end what I'm using for spray can. But this stuff is really good. Let me turn the light on over here. Does that help? Not much. But you can see this is really good. Tomorrow we'll weld that crack over there, right? And then once that's welded, you don't really have to grind or anything over there. We'll probably grind a little bit, but it doesn't have to be mint because it's not an area that, you know, we're going to be looking at really. And it's a physical repair, you know, mechanical. But then after that, well, we'll lay paint on it. So I use a rag, like a terry towel or an old sock, a little bit of detergent, maybe just a little bit of Dawn or something, just enough to break surface tension. You rag it off, and then if you want to blow it the air, fine, but it keeps the dust down. The idea is to keep the dust down. Now, before we prime, we are going to wash it with a clean blue towel and Windex. All right, so that's tomorrow. And you can see this is perfect. Now, after we paint it one more time, prime it one more time, we'll let it dry, and then we'll go from the 180 to 220, 240, right? Just because you may see some striations or scratches. Now, normally I don't do that because you don't really need to. Oh, you see all this in here, this wrinkling and everything? I don't know if you can see that, but that's the polyester that's used, original coating, right? It wrinkles, right? So it was never perfect. All right, just gave it a quick coat. All right, now we're going to hit it with like 240, just real quick. I left a little bit of primer in the gun just in case. And we're almost done. Yeah, the weld's a little uglier than I wanted, but you know, this contamination, it's a tough spot, and I'm tired. I couldn't find my other pair of glasses. That helmet's crap. I need a new helmet. So I had a set of welding glasses that I bought, which were expensive, and I think recently I put them in a case, and now I don't know where they are. So I can't see through that helmet properly. There you can see, right, a couple of spots where I sanded through, but the rest of it looks really good. Now, let's keep in mind that a few little spots down there, it's really nothing. Keep in mind that when you sand something like this, I mean, it's hardened and I gave it some time, but primer, even the best of primers, right, they always sand better the next day. So you can push the work and you can do what I'm doing here. You gotta wait. It's very warm today, and so the heat has a lot to do with it. Now, some of this sat overnight, which is great because the longer these things sit, they off-gas to some degree, although this one doesn't smell very much, but you can tell. All right, let me get my last coat on. Just a light coat, just to cover over some of these things here so that the paint sticks well. And then I'll let it dry, and I'm gonna set it up and we'll paint it. All right, it's been drying for, well, not quite an hour. Looks good. This is the last you'll see of it in primer. Just put a little bit on. Let's go take a look at that paint that I want to use. Hopefully it's still usable. I'm gonna give me some newspaper and a knife. Let me turn the light on. Look at that. And we'll get it out and see if it's usable. It's about half a quart, maybe a little less, right, once we get all that out. It's actually a nice color. It's almost like a silver charcoal metallic. Isn't that nice? There's the plug that came out. Look at the thickness of it. And some oils are in it. We're going to use lacquer thinner to thin this out, to cut it down. It'll dry a lot quicker and it works pretty good. I'm just going to start off with a lighter coat on the bottom, and we'll flip it. Add a little bit more thinner into it. We'll try that. So I've been working out of this gun now for a couple of days, And that's what I like about this gun, is it can handle it. And I'll rinse it through tonight with a little bit of lacquer thinner, and I'll leave it, and we'll decide tomorrow if I want to put this on, the hammer tone. So I'm just using up paint that I have. This paint here was a chassis paint from Summit. They haven't sold that in a long time. I don't have part B, so I used some various concoctions of activators. They're kind of similar, a little bit of that and a little bit of something else, that Perfect Prime, the stuff we were using. It's basically the same composition. We're painting a lawnmower. Let's go take a look. It's been about an hour, so it's working. It's dry to the touch, so we can flip it. Might be a little tacky in a few areas that I kind of hit it wet, but I'm going to flip it, and we'll be back in a bit, and we'll lay some top coat down. I'll probably tack rag it because it's been sitting out for a bit. All right, I decided to bring it back in here for the final. I got a thumbprint on it over here. It's tacked up enough. I'm not sure what that is. It almost looks like a crack or something. For some reason, maybe the dog hair? I don't know. Could be dog hair. Yeah, it's dog hair. All right, let me see if I can get that out. Let's put that hammer finish on it now. I think that'll work out good. Just a light coat. And test it in the bottom, make sure I don't have any issues. I don't want it to craze. It really doesn't matter when you put something like that on. It can always cause a problem. The paints are a little bit different. But sometimes you have a little bit better luck when it's still, you know, moist. I don't want to say moist, but you know what I mean. All right, let me mix it up. Oh, yeah. All right, good morning, fellas. It's the next day. So I figured last night when I was cleaning up, I was like, well, I think I'm done with paint, and let me not leave this gun sit for yet another day. But that's what I like about, I said this before, what I like about this gun. It's just durable. It's really a shop gun. And I run it about the same pressure as my high volume low pressure, really. So it does a good job. That's what my workbench looks like, even after I've straightened it up a little bit. I finally got rid of this paint. I got a little bit left over in here, garlic jars, things like that. They'll last for a little bit longer, right? Because it's not as much air volume. I think I have another container of some stuff. You know, cans, right? Filter. All this can be now recycled and thrown out. Simple stuff. Tack rag. All right. I always leave one around. I like to leave these out for a little bit. This one's actually getting a little dry because when you first open them up, they're a little too tacky and they can leave stains. So you want to let them air out. Some people stick them in a coffee can. They just bunch them all up, throw them in there. That's another good way to do it. I think that's about it that covers it. So different sandpapers that you're going to want. I like to use the good premium stuff. This is one of the ones I was using. So I did, this is 220, so this is what I finished up with. Get them on the roll. That's very nice to do. Let me tape this up to store them. I usually use rubber bands, but the rubber bands aren't made as well, and they break. And plus the different things in the shop, I think, over time damage rubber bands. So I hate it when they just pop off. So just a little bit of tape that keeps it nice. You know, quick release tape keeps it nice out of my way. I can go put this in storage, and I think that's about it. Yeah, let's get to work. Okay, gentlemen, so now one last comment, and I'll let you guys get out of here if you're still here. I put a bit of automotive clear on top, so I think that's something that I would highly recommend. The paints themselves, they will dry over time and harden, and they will be somewhat resistant to gasoline and things like that. I've seen it where, like, even Rust-Oleum, like, you come back a year later and you spill gas or even sometimes brake fluid on it, and it doesn't care. But that takes a long time. A lot of these non-automotive paints, they take a long time to cure. So in this one, I put some Rust-Oleum clear on it. Rust-Oleum also makes an automotive clear coat. It used to be called an engine clear coat. You can use engine clear coats on top. Something that gives you that level of protection of the finish in terms of, you know, the quality of the finish if you like it. A little bit layer on top. And that way it protects it, because people are going to be spilling fuel on it. And you don't want your finish to rub off. Now, like I said, if it cures for a month, it'll be dry in a day. I start working with it usually in about a day. It's hard enough for me to work. The automotive paints or the hardened paints I can work with in hours. But the cure, right, and the resistiveness it has to oils, greases, and gasoline, that could take a long time. So an automotive clear on top is what I tend to use for when I'm really shoving stuff out the door, or when things I know I can get a bit more money. The spray bombs have some ability to do that if you can stick with the automotives or ceramics. I'm just trying to think of anything else I want to throw in there to let you guys know. Also, another technique I do is I don't go for shine. I want to hide. So I lay back when I spray clear. I lay back and I let sort of fog on there to create not really orange peel, but a misted, dulled effect. I don't go for, even if it's high gloss. If I happen to buy a high gloss clear, I put it on the same way. And I just do that to prevent, you know, to get rid of any modeling that might be on there, to create a sort of industrial finish. That's it for this one, guys. Thanks for stopping in, and I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to check out some of the others as I build this, build the channel, and also build the folder on PaintJucation. And so there'll be quite a number of videos out there if you guys want to check out how to deal with rust and things like that. All right, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching Arch's Garage.